that show to win, believe it or not. I came here for visibility. It's like the biggest radio show you could possibly be on, right? It's the same as being on like, Funk Flex in the morning, but like times 1 trillion. And it's going to 25 million active viewers a day. So I need to figure out a way to optimize this for my socials. So I went, downloaded an app that, may or may not illegally rip the content in high quality. Then I took a screenshot of some of Netflix's regular content on social, asked some controversial tools online what font this is and what size it is, got the same font, got the same color profile, and just made a bunch of content. So, the thing that I just hope everyone remembers is that it was the art first. That was why you started creating. Money is amazing. And I say this as a broke artist.
Welcome to La Artisteada with Kiara González Duran. Hi everyone, welcome to La Artisteada. Today we are on episode 3. Here in partnership with Univision 34. And today's guest, I'm a little nervous. I'm excited, but nervous because I think that today's guest talks about a lot of topics that I am very passionate about. So from history to like building his career in music. So let's have a good conversation today. We are with Jay Taj. He is an artist, producer, musician, and overall creative. He was also, I heard a million podcasts before, like having this conversation today. And he is the people's favorite on season 2 of Rhythm and Flow. And he also started, let's call it a digital series where he became a professor called Putting the PI in AAPI History Month. Welcome.
Gassing me up.
Yeah. I'm like listing all of the things. But first of all, how are you today?
I'm blessed. I'm so grateful to be here. I'm happy. I'm alive. My skin look good. My teeth are white. I feel great.
They are pretty white. I wasn't gonna compliment, but now that you mentioned it, I'm like, they are pretty white. Nice.
Hard work.
Yeah. Okay, so first up, I want to like go back to before any of these like big achievements that you've had. What was it growing up in Santana? You are from there. You talk a lot about it being like a predominantly Latino neighborhood. And you're not Latino. So tell us about that.
I grew up in Santa Ana, as some people would call it. It's the heart of Orange County, although I should say on record, nobody from Santa Ana says they're from Orange County. They say they're from Santa Ana. Very proud to be from there. I grew up in a mixed family, but in a predominantly Mexican neighborhood. Mexican, Vietnamese, a nice blend of two cultures that are very different from one another, but also grew up with a very strong culture in the household. So felt like I got a pretty solid mix of lifestyle, and point of view from different people from different places on the planet. I love my neighborhood,
Yeah.
I think that it's pretty common for people to say that like their environment makes them who they are, but in the realest way, I believe in nurture over nature, and even to the degree that I'm a self-proclaimed like honorary Chicano. I think that
we welcome you into the community.
My daddy also used to joke and say, "You are whatever Santa Ana PD says you are," until proven otherwise. So if I go running down the street, they're probably gonna say Hispanic male, not half Pacifica, half black and white male. They're gonna say how I appear to be. So even in my presentation of self, I acknowledge the fact that without much knowledge, people would assume I'm a Latino. So I try to treat that with delicacy as well, and respect the fact that if I'm in a room saying some dumb stuff, I have to remember that people might actually think I'm Latino. So I gotta respect my Latinos and act accordingly.
Yeah, and you work in music. You built a career in music. Like, what was that culturally for you? Since your experience was probably like a little bit different from like the experience around you.
What do you mean?
like maybe you were hearing corridos
Oh,
on the streets,
for sure.
but like maybe your family didn't. I don't know. I'm assuming, right? But maybe your family wasn't listening to corridos. Like how was that relationship with you with music?
I mean, to keep it a bean with you, corridos is not far off from blues or, some other Southern style music, just in a different language. The bass lines are the same. Usually the subject matter is very similar, especially when it comes to gangster rap and the other things I was listening to in the household. So yeah, I think musically, good music in general, I like to believe influences my musical choices, whether it's, Mexicano music or American music or Pacifica reggae or even, indigenous music from other regions around the world. I think like anyone who's able to take sound and create a universe to tell stories, I'm into that, And I think corridos is probably one of the most prime examples of a genre that has found a unique way to tell unique stories, in a way that other genres may not create space for that. But somehow we still find ourselves dancing, crying, getting drunk to corridos in whatever instance is the most appropriate. I think that my musical approach is the same way, right? Like corridos, it represents all music with lyrical matter represents like a polarizing reality of the human experience, right? You can go from singing about breaking the law to singing about being in love with, the most important woman in your life, and it can be coming from the same source, the same person who's experiencing these two polarizing human experiences. And I think that my music, I hope, represents that same polarization of the human experience that Mexican music or American music or Asian music or whatever music, I choose to listen to that day. I like to believe that it's in line and inspired by such things.
I'm like, you're so deep. I wasn't ready to be this deep earlier in the conversation. But how did you come to understand like your identity growing up? Because I think that like, I don't know, sometimes as I was like studying you, something that you mentioned was like how people perceive you, right? And it's really interesting to me because I don't know if I've ever said this, but people very often assume I'm Asian.
Really?
In a lot of spaces. Like back in college, people would, I guess I had a doppelganger.
I can't unsee it now.
Yeah.
No, I 100% see it now.
Yeah, like I guess there was like some other girl that was Asian that like people confused me with, and people would come up to me and tell me things in some other language. Yeah. But what I think is really interesting is that like looking back, I remember that in that moment, I like would get offended.
Sure.
And I was like, why are people thinking I'm Asian? But, as an immigrant from Tijuana, something that Mexicans like often like love hearing is when people tell you like, oh, I didn't know you were Mexican. I thought you were white. And so I think I was like kind of like, why do I get mad when people tell me that I look Asian? And why am I going through these feelings? But this was like me older. For you, that was like your entire like upbringing experience. Like, how did you come to understand that?
I think I'm still finding peace with all of it, right? It's like, growing up, I would, to no surprise, I would mostly be confused for being Mexicano, right? But
what an honor.
But it did take me into my adulthood to understand the privilege that is, right? But I think growing up, like, I was raised in a black household by a black man, as a black man. I look like I'm Chicano. All my cousins are Polynesian and black. And I felt like I didn't actually have like a community that I innately belonged to as it pertains to perception. Like people would see me and associate me with something. Once they found out I wasn't, Mexican, then, kids being kids, then I was the gringo or whatever in the school, right? And I was like somehow I was offending them that I wasn't Mexican, right? Or I didn't speak Spanish. And then same thing with my Pacifica family. And I would say, honestly, of all the family that I grew up around, probably my black family was the least, excluding as it pertains to like making me feel. If you would have never showed me a mirror as a kid, I would have thought I was a straight black kid in my household, right? Grew up in a black church playing black music, and black cultural touch points seemed to come the most naturally to me because of what was happening in the household. As it pertains to like, there's things like in Mexican culture that like, if you only know if you're Mexican, right? And you only know the certain smells and the time of day or the tone of voice that it just like, if you grew up in these households, you understand it innately. Well, that's how I felt about black culture in my household, and not even Pacifica cultures as it pertains to Samoan or Chamorro or whatever, because I wasn't raised in those spaces. So you can imagine like you I also was like, when people would speak to me in Spanish, I'm not Mexican. I'm not Mexican, right? I would get offended by that because I wanted to be part of whatever identity I could be part of that felt like home, right? And so that was why when I was in high school, I grew my hair long. I started getting tattoos to try and alleviate that mistake. And it wasn't until I grew older that I looked around and realized like all of my best friends, you know, the women that I've loved in my life, my brothers that from the neighborhood, some people, you know, people that I consider my mentors and stuff are Mexican. And I became very proud in my adulthood that, like, you know, to be an honorary Chicano, if you will, like, I think that it's something that just adolescence, probably the same as you, adolescence, you know, drove you to a place where you're like, I hate that. But then you actually realize how lucky you are, right? Like Mexico, much like other, you know, colonized places in the world, have a mixture of tons of DNA. So who knows why you might resemble, you know, have characteristics that are more common in Asian identities. Maybe somewhere along the line, an Asian ended up in Tijuana. You know what I'm saying?
Well, you know, there's a long history, which is pretty interesting. But I did do one of those DNA tests because I was like, let's see,
Sure,
you know, maybe. But it's so funny because I have a friend who, back in college, my friends would call her La China, right? Like, she's La China from Mexicali. And I once like I thought I was like enlightened. I went to a class and the professor like was talking about how, I can't remember, like when they were building trains and the railroads, a lot of Chinese immigrants were deported, sent to Mexico. A lot of them landed in like different places like Puebla, and then a lot of them also in Mexicali.
Right.
And I like go to my friend and I'm like, Ana Karen, I think you could be Asian.
Yeah.
And she was like, Kiara, I am Asian. I was like, what? Because like I think like the Mexican identity, like I didn't assume she wasn't Mexican, you know? But like she was like, yeah, my mom is from China. But like she was like, she's the most Mexican Chinese person you'll ever meet. But you know, this is like the reality. And I don't know, maybe the DNA test got it wrong because I am like half indigenous, half like 40 something, you know? And then there's like some percentages there that I'm like, I don't know if they really matter.
No, they all matter. But I will say that, like, I think also too, this conversation is relatively, I don't want to say exclusive, but way more common in the States than anywhere else. Like the States is one of the only places on earth where, like, maybe the UK, and maybe Australia, but most places, most countries, no matter where your ancestors come from, like you are that country's identity, right? You go to Puerto Rico, the DR, Jamaica. There's Chinese people in Jamaica, and they are Jamaican, right? That's what they are first. And I'm probably the same in Mexico. Whereas, like in the States, you are your immigrant ancestry first before you are American in most cases, right? So I think that conversation is way more common here. Whereas, like your friend who is half Chinese is like, first of all, I'm Mexican, right? But I'm also Chinese. So I think that sort of like changes a little bit of the innate feeling that you have in these environments when someone might misidentify you, right? In those other environments, the first thing you are is usually the nationality in which you were raised, the culture that raised you. And that's kind of how I felt, right? Like, I'm like, no, I'm black. But then I looked in the mirror and I'm like, bruh, what? It takes a lot of explaining, even to the security guards downstairs. They're like, really? For real? I'm like, yeah, I promise. I've been telling this story my whole life. You know
I find that fascinating because like even as like for example in Brazil, like there's a lot of, I think it's like the second largest Japanese population. And when when my sister and I met some Brazilians that were of Japanese ancestry, we couldn't conceptualize that they didn't associate with being Asian. They were like, no, I'm Brazilian. And I was like, and then I think I started getting a lot of consciousness of a lot of people, like growing up in Tijuana, there were like some people whose parents were Puerto Rican. They're Mexican, but my parents are Puerto Rican, or my parents are from this, but I'm Mexican. It's just like, that is fascinating. I love talking about identity because it is pretty fascinating, and like how historically the US has othered everyone that's not white. It's
straight up. Without
interesting.
A doubt. I also come to a place in my life too, to answer your question about how I found myself as it pertains to identity, was I actually relinquished myself from that responsibility. I do believe, and this is a hot topic, but I believe that identity in most cases belongs to the identifier, not the identified, right? Like when you think about the use cases for identity, it's typically a third person experience. Like I'm identifying what I see. Right. So the person who holds the identity has a say in that. But ultimately, like like I said, whatever, if Santa Ana PD identifies me, that is a mechanic for them to communicate with each other so they are all on the same page.
Mm-hmm.
So when I recognize the way that I present, I have to be conscientious of the way that I present myself in the ways that my identity, in most cases, until corrected, is actually in the hands of somebody else. And so I have to be acknowledging that in all of my actions. I have to acknowledge that I look like a Latino. Therefore, inherently, I represent Latinos even when I don't want to, even when I don't feel it's my responsibility to. I do, whether I like it or not.
Mm-hmm.
So I have to be conscientious about how that affects my Mexican brothers and sisters, because my behavior to a stranger can, like, especially those who are the most judgmental of people of color, they would associate me with them before they would associate me with my Black father, right? Which is a very, very slippery slope when you're cutting up and you're not behaving yourself. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So even on that front, like, I recognize part of the pride in that I found in being mistaken for a Latino comes from being like, you know what? That's actually not even really my call. If somebody thinks I'm Latino, beautiful, wonderful. How lucky am I? And I should probably treat that with respect and you know, a gentle approach.
Yeah, that's powerful. But I think like that is very much like a US experience, I guess, because but also like just like I was reminded right now often about how the idea of like we're all Mexican also hinders the fact that racism does exist in all these places, right? 100%. But let's talk about music. You just mentioned that you used to go to Black churches and that's where you learned music. Like, tell us about that. Where did you start getting your inspiration that you were like, I'm gonna become a musician? And I do have to say, I am interrupting you before you start to speak, but I want to talk about how I met you. Like, in the interview with Tornillo, I remember we were like setting up my friends, producers, and like we were setting up. And someone in the background was like playing the piano in the most angelical possible way. And we were like, who is that? And then Jay was like,
it's me.
Yeah. So that is how we met. Yeah. Continue.
Yeah. No, I mean, that instrument, the keys, was the first, my first introduction in participating in music outside of just being an audience member or a listener. And my mama Tina, she's my grandma, but I call her my mama. She was a keyboard player. She played the piano her whole life. And so, you know, like most young folks in the 90s, especially in you know, Black households, we grew up going to church. And obviously in you know, missionary and Southern Baptist churches, like music is a primary component to the service, right? Like whether it be the organ at the very least, you know, and then in some cases, you know, these small churches in Santa Ana would have full bands. And so by the time I was like 11 or 12, I had asked the pastor if I could play the keys, but there was already an amazing keyboard player named Jay Taj that was there. And there was an amazing drummer named Ronald Allen, who is now the drummer for like Justin Bieber and Kid Leroy and stuff. And we grew up in the same church. So I wasn't able to play drums or keys. So then I picked up the bass and I played bass in church for a little while. But ultimately, like, the theory is still the same. You know, my love for all the instruments kind of developed in that environment. And then I was lucky to have rapper uncles. You know, I got uncles in the neighborhood that was from a rap group in Santa Ana called Day One in the 90s. And then I grew up listening to, you know, other Pacifica artists like the Booyah Tribe and Brownsville and, you know, LA gangster rap stuff. So there was a major mix as far as the music influence goes. But as a practitioner and a musician, I was playing the keys before I was rapping. And then when I realized I couldn't sing, that was when rap came in very handy. But
you can't sing, no?
I mean,
I kind of remember you like singing a little bit.
I know how to find the key, but like when you compare me to like my cousins, like they can sing, you know, they're like American Idol level singers.
Oh wow! I will. I también. You're not gonna compare yourself.
But nah, I mean, I just the rap music just came significantly more naturally for me, and I think also too, you're talking about the early 2000s when, you know, the best rappers in the game are still the best rappers today, but they were at their prime. You know, Hov and Eminem and Andre 3000. Like the inspiration pool to choose from was like at hip hop's peak, and so I was like, I want to do that. I also was terrible at sports, like terrible football player. Do not kick me a soccer ball. Don't hand me the basketball. But when it came to performing, this seemed to be like the thing that came the most naturally to me. Whether it was dancing, playing an instrument, you know, even in theater and like drama class and stuff, I just always took a liking to using some sort of medium to tell a story.
And when did you start like taking it as a like officially?
Man,
as
believe
a
it or
career?
not, my 13th birthday, my uncles from my black side of my family took me to the studio for my birthday. So my uncle Raw, I call him Uncle Bubba, but y'all can't call him that. So my uncle, his name is Raul. He's half black, half Mexican. He took me to the studio. He came to pick me up, and he's like, "Come get in the car. We're gonna go somewhere." I get in the car. He's like, "Where's your notebook with all your raps in it?" Because I was already writing raps, and he was a rapper, so he was a big part of that experience. And like, while everybody else in my family was going to him to learn how to shoot free throws, like I was going to him to learn how to write rhymes and stuff, and kicking it in his room and like doing the whole thing where he's like, "No, you want to change that. That's not the right line or whatever. Or maybe try this or that." And so he became sort of a mentor to me when it came to rapping. And then for my 13th birthday, he pulled up to the crib, told me to get in the car. And when I got in, he was like, "Where's your notebook at?" "Okay, I'll go get it." And then we pulled up to the studio where he recorded his music at. And then I was able to hear myself on a CD, which was like also tells when this was. And from there, I think it kind of became serious. I did my first project within a year of that. And I think everybody in my neighborhood and everybody around me was like, "Okay, he's a rapper." I mean, at that time, if you had a CD, you was a rapper.
You were official.
Yeah, you were not pretending. You know what I'm saying? So I was very lucky to do that.
That's funny that you say like calling it a CD of like that time, because I still call like people are like, "Oh yeah, like his EP." I'm like, that's a disco, you know, like
right.
What's their new like CD? I still call it like that because I'm like, you know what, I'm not gonna change it.
Right.
Like that's how I grew up knowing like these new lists of music. So I'll keep calling it that.
I honestly miss them days too. I miss the art of collecting music, right? And I don't mean to be like a nerd about it, but it is just like, I think there's something dangerous about how easily we consume music now. It's like, it's very similar to social media. Like our attention spans are so short, and we're like, we need to be satiated so fast, right? Like Drake drops 3 albums in a day and we can consume all 3 of them in an hour and a half. Whereas like it used to be, you had to go stand in line and hold this music in your hand and go find somewhere to listen to it. And then you had it in your possession. Like it was something you could keep, and then other people didn't have it, but you had it. And then, when pirating came around, you could burn it and trade it. And like, there was more of a community in it. You know what I'm saying? Now it's just, we consume it at the same rate that we consume, a TikTok. It's just, okay, I heard it once, now I move on. And and it's beautiful that we have access to all music. I think that's amazing. But at the same time, I'm like, damn, I do wish I could stand in line and go get a CD again. And it means something. You know what I'm saying? Now, if I went to buy a CD, it's just for decoration. It's just to put on my shelf. I don't even have a CD player. Really? My car doesn't have a CD player. Like, where would I listen to it?
We still have like the little radio. I'm like, why do we keep carrying this? Like I moved a million times. Why do we keep carrying this thing? I guess it's a piece of treasure.
100%. I should probably get one for the house.
Yeah. And do you remember what your first CD was?
What it was called?
No, like
the first one?
The first that you acquired from somebody else.
Oh man, I don't remember the first one, but I remember the most important one.
Okay.
So I was rapping already. So I started rapping at 13 and I was making CDs. And around 15, I gotta look up the actual dates, but I would say it was around 15 or 16. I was regularly jacking CDs from Target. Like it was a regular part of my life, right? And I went to Target to jack an album from Method Man called 421 the day after. And as I was looking through the shelves for other CDs to steal, I found an album by a group called The Roots. And I thought it was Nappy Roots because I didn't know who The Roots was, right? Which is embarrassing, but The Roots are maybe the most legendary rap group of all time. But I'm very embarrassed to say that I didn't know who they was at 15. And I thought it was Nappy Roots, which is a very different group, right? And also amazing, but they're not The Roots. So I jacked this CD thinking it was Nappy Roots, and I'm all excited to go listen to this like Alabama, Southern music, Mississippi music, I think, and popped that CD in, and it changed my life. I mean, I never had heard hip hop be presented in this way, with a live band, with such conscientious subject matter. And then in track 3 or 4, Black Thought says something along the lines of, "It's crazy when you too real to be free. If you ain't got no paper, then steal the CD." And then I felt like he was talking to me in that moment. He was telling me. And I think my entire approach to music changed. I thought I was going to be like a gangster rapper. I thought I was going to be like the same thing that was kind of being fed to me in my environment. I thought I was going, and I still do talk a lot about street culture, but man, his approach to subject matter, to talk about the same things that, you know, DJ Quick and Dr. Dre and Ice Cube was talking about, but in a completely different perspective. I think it changed the way I look at music, you know. And if I wouldn't have stole that CD that day, I'm not sure I would have ever came to appreciate the Roots Game Theory album the way that I do. I mean, to this day, it's still like a top 5 album for me. So I don't remember the first CD I acquired,
but the most important
but that was probably the most important CD I ever stole. And if I ever meet Black Thought, I will give him $20.
You're like, I owe you.
Yeah, I owe you. You changed my life.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's crazy. You know, I unfortunately am not as well versed. On hip hop.
Sure.
But I would love to talk about. So I saw that you went to continuation school. And can you tell us a little bit about that? Because I have some questions about how that shaped.
I mean, there's not much to say about it. Like, I kicked out of school and I had to go to continuation school. You know, I was a good kid, but I just wasn't a good student. You know, I think at least I'm a great student. I think in the standardized way that California schools approach education, it just wasn't for me. And I wasn't stimulated in those environments, you know, so they was like, all right, you can't be here no more. And I went from like being enrolled in regular school, never showing up, never doing my homework, to like this sort of hyper independent approach to school where it's like, we ain't really going to teach you anything. You got to take this packet home and learn it yourself. And I was actually significantly more accelerated in that environment. Like I caught up on all the things that I had missed out on in ditching school and stuff like that. And then I got ahead to the point that I was able to graduate early. I mean, graduate is a subjective concept. I got some sort of piece of paper that said, you know, said you can go to college now.
What do you think that that helped shape kind of like your understanding of failure, right? Because I think that for me, as someone that was that straight A student and went to the best possible college that I could have gone, I do think that when I step out of the system, I feel a little lost, you know, because to me, I was like, I need to achieve this and achieve this within the structure. But I do see, and people talk like, oh, like you're not street smart. And it's like, well, I don't know if that's like a reality, but there's some structure that I think that I was educated to be part of. And when I step out of it, it's like, okay, how do I build this structure for myself? I don't know. And I think that the people that were not performing very well in school, not everyone, obviously, but like some people, their understanding of failure within things, it's like, it's not as deep.
Right. It's not failure in the first place. I think that what it taught me about failure is that it's a subjective concept. And failure is only as true as the benchmarks that you set, right? And so if you set a benchmark to say, I need to run 1,000 miles and I don't run 1,000 miles, then I fail. But if that same person's benchmark was just, I need to run, then they succeeded. So the standardization of learning is very useful in a lot of cases for a lot of young people. But for some of us, we kind of just needed to be told what needed to get done, but you figure out your own path to get there. And it's less about what it taught me about failure and more what it taught me about independence and, you know, the ability to create my own systems or lack thereof, the ability to be comfortable in the absence of systems, right? I think even now, like in a lot of the work that I don't do good when it's like people are watching me. Like my systems are messed up, man, but I'll get to the finish line in the same manner that anybody else will. And I feel this, I offer that same grace to somebody like you. If you require a system, then that's your way of getting it done. And do what you got to do, get it done in your way. I think that going through that experience as a youngster prepared me for my version of adulthood, my version of being a provider for my family. And in some cases, like some of my friends, my close friends, a more standardized approach is their version of adulthood. I watch the way that they are mothers and fathers at this stage in their life. And I'm like, man, I can see how systems work for you. And they look at me and they're like, man, you're just free out here like, frolicking around the world. And that's my system. That's how it works for me. I need to be in an environment where anything can happen. And my blessing and my skill set lies in my ability to react versus my ability to adhere. to the system, right? Neither are wrong. They're just two different paths to the same outcome.
Yeah, but I just like find it fascinating, right? Because at different points in your life, it's like, oh, they felt like this is not how it's supposed to be. But then it's like, well, other people like can also have a different experience, like with me, of achieving, and then when I'm taken out from that, it's like, wait, what am I supposed to do now?
Right.
And then with your career as an artist, how did you start improving your craft and then getting, I guess, like the first opportunity that you think helped you like speed up your career as an artist?
Man, the answer would have been different a couple years ago. I had other moments that were very accelerating in my career path. To answer the first question, the perfection of my craft, or the building of my craft, is something that never stops. I still feel like I'm not fully the artist I have the potential to be, not even close. And that requires time and space. Like, it's not something you can rush. It has to happen in a natural way. And finding yourself, is a journey that is at a different pace for every artist. And then once you find yourself, you realize that there's another version of me I want out there, because probably a lot of my listeners see me as a complete artist. They see me as a whole artist with a point of view and an approach to sound, but they don't know that in my head, I'm like, but I want more. I want to do something else. I want to do a punk rock album or some crazy. You understand where I'm coming from? So the perfection of my craft is an everlasting journey, right? It's ever changing, and the next thing I want to try could change. If I hear a song in a way I've never heard it before today, my whole next album could sound different. Like I might just take a whole new different approach. And then the second question about, what was the moment that accelerated it? Like I said, there was many instances in my career before I was on Netflix that I would say, man, that was a big moment, right? There was tons of those where I met somebody, or I had a moment that, it could have been that when I started on YouTube in 2010, Timothy De La Ghetto and Ricky Shucks, who are YouTube legends in the comedy space, commented on my first YouTube video, and it accelerated everything. I went from 0 subs to 25,000 subs overnight. That could be viewed as a moment that jumped off a lot of things. And I was suddenly no longer an aspiring creator. I was a creator.
Was that the first video that you made, or how many videos did it take you to get to that?
But I also I knew them from like LA stuff, right? House parties and stuff. I met them. And so it starts with just like real relationships. And then that moment happens. So one could say that was a big moment, but nothing compares to being on Netflix. No disrespect to the homies coming. Like, like my career went from, I had an established career and I was a local act with a ton of credibility. And I was working in the industry for the last 15 years as a professional, both as a producer behind the camera, a music video director, TV. I directed a TV show.
Oh, what? And which one?
It's called The Canvas. It was on a network called Fuse. But it was a few years back, and it was a documentary series about LA, and I directed that whole series. And
wow! Wait, I did not know you were also in the film. And
I mean, I got an IMDb.
Yeah, you're official.
So there was tons of moments that I could say accelerated me, but nothing compares to being on Netflix. As it was like the first time that my career was centered around my art as a rapper. Before that, I've always had to have my hands in other areas of the adjacent industry, right? As a producer, songwriter, a dancer, a behind the camera filmmaker, a strategist as a marketer for different institutions. I've always been around entertainment and, all through it. But like, to be in a room as the entertainer, as the talent, nothing compares to what Netflix did for that story, for sure.
And can you tell us about how the period of wait time between when you first learned that you were casted?
Oh my goodness. That happened faster than you would think. I mean, like, from the time I was casted to the time I was on set was only a few months.
What?
The journey of auditions was like 5 years.
5 years?
Because COVID. So like, there was like the first round of auditions in 2019, 2 weeks after D-Smoke won. And I went through that whole process. And then the producers were like, hey, we're going to call you back in 2 weeks because there's like this sickness going around. Well, 2 weeks turned to years. And I was like, I'm never going to get casted. The casting producer that casted me at that time is now like a super famous TikToker and is on like red carpets and stuff. So I'm like, I'm not getting casted, right? And I'm also 3 years older. I got a dad bod. I don't even make music no more, right? They're not going to call me. And then it wasn't until a neighbor of mine on my floor in downtown LA, she became the new casting producer when the show came back and asked me if I wanted to audition again. So from the time I auditioned to the time I was on set was not that long. It was less than 4 months. But then from the time we shot the show to the time that it aired was a year. And that was rough because I just wanted it to come out already. You know what I'm saying? I'm doing all these things. I'm in all these rooms and I'm like looking around like these people have no idea.
Who they're sitting with.
They don't even know. You know, I'm with big time MCs and stuff because I've always been in these rooms, right? But usually in some capacity that wasn't a rapper. You know, they knew me as the guy behind the camera, or they knew me as the creative director of a campaign or something like that. And then the amount of people that hit me after the show came out, you know, Calmatic and tons of creators that I have worked with behind the camera hit me in the DMs like, bro, I had no idea you was a rapper. How'd you let this slip between the cracks? But at the same time, it's dangerous. You're in these rooms as a professional and you're like, yeah, listen to my mixtape. That's dangerous work. Yeah. You could lose a lot of opportunities like that.
And what did you do like during that time? Because did you lose hope that this show was ever going to be created? Like
during the time from the first, oh yeah, for sure. And not only did I lose hope that it was ever going to be created, I lost hope that I would be casted. Like what? I know what these, like I was the oldest guy on that cast by 10 years, you know?
Oh, wow.
Me and Dre TL are 10 years apart, you know? And so I'm like, that's who they want. They want youngsters, right? If I'm producing a show, I want youngsters. What do I got to do with this old man that looks Mexican, sounds black, and got Samoan tattoos? What am I supposed to do with this guy? Right. So if I'm a producer, I'm like, yeah, it's never coming back. And if it do come back, I'm not casting that guy. And then somehow I was wrong and they casted me.
Wow. And how do you think it helped you prepare for that opportunity when you did like when you started the show?
My gosh, if I would have got casted in 2019, it would have been all bad. I think my approach to how I present myself was not nearly as developed. And I think that my level of self-control emotionally was not nearly as developed, right? And so I think first of all, we all grew up a little bit during COVID. Everybody did. I mean, some people crashed out, but like all my homies, that level of solitude and that level of like that lack of dependent outcomes, right? Like having community to lean on during COVID, it taught us a lot about ourselves. And I think that my ability to go inwards and think to myself about a lot of things before opening my mouth became a habit during COVID. And then obviously just the natural growth and progression you'll have over 4 years at that area of your life. So by the time I got on the show, what? Thank God. Thank God it did not happen in 2019. And thank God it happened at 30. I mean, I was 30. I was 32 years old when we shot that. So, I mean, way better than who I was at 22. I think that much.
Yeah. You know, it's funny because, and not a lot of people know this, but I was casted for a show that
Love Island.
didn't, no.
I can totally see her on Love Island.
No. It was kind of like a competition show. And thankfully, I'm like, looking back, I'm like, it didn't air. And I'm like,
so you shot it and everything?
The first episode.
Wow.
And but I sang horrendously.
I didn't you. First of all, how you just gonna randomly drop that you're a singer?
No, I'm not a singer. That's why I sang horrendously.
And they had you on there as a singer?
Well, you had to like participate in an audition with like a talent, and for some reason I thought I could sing.
And then like choose the talent.
Yeah, no. It was bad. I'm like, all of the things that could go against me. It was like the nerves. The mic was so heavy. I didn't sing. Like I was like, oh my gosh, thank goodness the world didn't get to see that, because I don't think that would have been the way I wanted to represent myself to the world.
If you could go back and choose another talent, what is the talent?
I think I would do poetry.
Oh yeah.
I not a lot of people know this.
Now they do.
But now they do. But when I was in elementary school, like I would compete in poetry competitions and win.
I believe that.
Yeah. So I really love poetry. So I think like looking back, I'm like, why didn't I just choose a poem?
The thing that you was at least you tried.
Yeah. I tried it. I can know in my heart that like they liked me.
Yeah.
You know, some validation.
Fun fact.
Yeah, and okay, and then after, how did you prepare after? Because literally on our last episode, our Eddie, who's a fashion designer, he did clothing for RuPaul Drag drag
Okay.
race.
Drag
And he also mentioned that the show aired like a year after. So he was like, during this time, I made a bunch of content so that once that this was out,
Yep.
people could see the process and like consume it kind of like live. Did you do something similar throughout the process before it came out?
Not I didn't make the same type of story. Like we had very strict rules about what we could and couldn't share from set. Or else, man, I would be ultra viral if I told the stories of the things that happened on set. But I instead, as somebody who was, during that time that I was on the show, 3 years before the show, I got hired at a pretty big company as a content producer. Right? So I was an executive producer, senior producer, which is the equivalent of an EP in most environments, for the content output of a major beverage company. And it was from everything from TikToks to feature films. So I had tons of experience in program and strategy. So when the show came out, I could have taken the approach of like, yeah, I'm going to tell a bunch of behind the scenes stories, but I didn't think that the way the show was shot drew that type of desire from people. Like, I don't think people care what happens behind the scenes of a music competition show. And anything that did happen behind the scenes was usually like crash out drama that I'm not trying to be part of. So instead, I just prepared myself to do something illegal, which was basically rip all the best scenes from when I was on the show and program them to look exactly the way that, man, this is crazy I'm saying this, to program them to look exactly the way that Netflix's content looked. So when I think about visibility, man, sorry Netflix, but I had my reservations about their approach to showcasing the show on social media. And I was like, well, the only way that I'm going to get the outcome that I came here for, because I didn't go on that show to win, believe it or not. I came here for visibility. It's like the biggest radio show you could possibly be on, right? It's the same as being on like, Funk Flex in the morning, but like times 1 trillion. And it's going to 25 million active viewers a day. So I need to figure out a way to optimize this for my socials. So I went, downloaded an app that, may or may not illegally rip the content in high quality. Then I took a screenshot of some of Netflix's regular content on social, asked some controversial tools online what font this is and what size it is, got the same font, got the same color profile, and just made a bunch of content. So during the time that the show was being aired, I programmed a piece of content every single day. And it was 99% moments of me on the show. Right? And so then when people were going on social media to talk about the show, what was the algorithm giving them? The one clip that came from Netflix or the 15 clips that came from Jay Taj? And the way that the clips looked like they were consuming official Netflix content, which I'm sure is problematic. And Netflix is not very happy about it. Right? But sorry, you're welcome.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And then my socials ultimately ended up, benefiting from that in a way that no disrespect to my fellow cast members, but it casts a shadow on the way that their socials were able to perform because, I'm blessed enough to have that level of experience. And not only that, the tools and the resources to do it. And so I was able to create that content where some of my homies from the show, A, didn't have as much face time on the show, but also B, didn't have necessarily the instincts. And so that preparation, came from years of being in the industry and just understanding the way that social footprints behave. Yeah. And then also the way that the audience is longing for more content, that even if they just want something they can share to say, yo, I'm watching this show, right? That's like the story that everybody wants anyways. Like you want the world to know the things that you're doing with your life. That's the purpose of social media. So when you have a clip of your hopefully favorite guy on the show and you can reshare that to your stories and reshare that to your feed, then I'm the one who wins in that, in that outcome. That's the reason why I believe that my socials ultimately ended up growing exponentially larger than some of my fellow cast members.
You're like, and that's how I became the people's favorite.
Yeah, I mean, maybe. I don't know how I became the people's favorite, but I did. I'm here for it.
Yeah, and like we're talking about, I'm like going now towards the end of this conversation, talking about social media. You created this series, putting the PI in AAPI History Month.
That's right.
I went through, I told you I went through yesterday. I was like listen to it as if it was a podcast. I was like
Yeah.
educating myself. Why did you choose to start this? Like, do you think? I guess just a question. Why did you
I think
start
there's multiple reasons. I think the first thing was I have an abundance of experience on the mic, and I felt like there was an area of my storytelling abilities that wasn't being tapped in my current situation. I used to be on radio. I used to have my own podcasts, but it was like to my homies, like that was like before anybody cared to listen to what I had to say. And then maybe about 2 days before May 1st, I was like, man, thinking back to, most of the years that I've been on this planet, especially when social media has been the position that it been in the position it is now. I recognize that like the Pacific Islander part of the Asian American Pacific Islander storytelling is to nobody's fault often left out of the conversation. And there is hundreds of fascinating stories in history within the Pacific Islands, both that are connected to modern culture and just history that just completely nobody knows, right? From traumatic and dark history to beautiful triumphs from our people across a diaspora that I would say 99% of the countries that make up the Pacific Island experience, most people cannot point them out on a map, right? It's like asking someone to to point out or name every country in Africa, right? They know that Africans exist, but very seldom does somebody know the difference between the Republic of Congo and, Kenya. And that's problematic because we have this platform. I have this platform. I have an opportunity to share these stories. I also have this desire for the world to understand that I am a capable storyteller outside of hip hop music. And I'm also going through a very messed up creative block as a musician. And it's been that way for over a year. So I needed something else to give me an opportunity to tell stories. So I decided to do it on day one. And then I said in that video, I'm going to do 31 of these. And now I'm like, right after this, I got to go figure out how to do today's video because I made that commitment. And I'm also like notorious. All my homies will tell you that privately I set goals and I'm notorious for not achieving them, for setting them to the side or saying, I'm going to do this for this many days and then I don't do it. And now I have a whole audience that's expecting it. And I've grown, by 25% since I started this, which is crazy. And I'm kind of scared that now everyone just thinks I'm a news guy.
Yeah.
I'm not a historian. I'm not a professor.
Yeah, no, people, well, you are to us. You are to the people.
I'm learning 99% of these stories as I'm writing the scripts.
Wow.
As I'm sharing them with the world, I'm also experiencing these stories for the first time. I just am like blessed to be good at, memorizing scripts and, saying them in a way that has some conviction. But yeah, I decided to do it because it needed to be done. And I did not expect, I honestly was like, yeah, maybe like just the Pacific Island community will watch this. I was very wrong. No. It is like crazy. I went from like 300,000 followers on Instagram to like, I think I have like 430,000 today. And it's only been like 16 days. 19 days? I don't know. But, it just continues to grow. And then the type of audience, I thought it was just going to be Pacific Islanders, but it's very many diverse audiences in the comment section, like Black folks, Latino folks, people from other countries in Latin America, Southeast Asia that are just like, I never knew this, but also this is my people's story too. Very similar. I think, and that's also the thing that I've learned is like, man, what maybe Pacifica people needed as far as the history goes is for other people to realize the shared experience that is the indigenous experience for pretty much every corner of the planet. We all have experienced the same things, or our ancestors did at least. And so I think that once people are able to make that connection, that reverence exists now, and hopefully it never goes away. Hopefully when an indigenous American thinks about indigenous Pacifica people, they recognize like, yeah, those are our cousins for real. Or when indigenous Asians or even indigenous Africans, South Americans, they're like, yeah, our ancestors have very, very, very similar stories. Yeah. And that's
I love it. And I think that like a lot of people resonate with it because I guess something that I really like is that you kind of like tell these stories kind of like in a chisme kind of way. Let me tell you about this. And then insert, And I'm like, oh, it's so engaging. But it's also, I do think that as a community right now in today's, I think like before today's climate, but I do think that in today's climate, I think people are like more in desire to know what there is beyond the history and the things that we've learned so far. A couple of weeks ago, there was this one artist, Latino artist, okay, who said like the most stupid thing about colonization in Spain. And it's like, and I think a lot of people like woke up and were like, well, not woke up, that's the wrong word. A lot of people like responded and like, dude, come on.
They were triggered.
Are you serious? Yeah. And I think that it's just, to me, it's super important for artists and people to be educated because you have a platform, right? And like to know your history. And if you're representing, we are all representing something. If you're representing some identity that you're like outspoken about, like you should know a little bit.
I also didn't know that was going to happen. Like I did not know that I was going to become the spokesperson for all Pacifica cultures. But I'm here for it. Sure, I'll do it. But it does come with a very terrifying responsibility. I mean, when I'm writing scripts, I'll read something in one publication, and then I gotta look up whose publication is this. Right? Like, is this like some weird ulterior motive that's like the way the story's being positioned in this publication, or am I able to find another publication that tells the same story from a different point of view? Because that's dangerous territory. For all I know, I could be contributing to a bad point of view, and I don't know it. And I also I'm telling stories about places I've also never been. I've never been to Fiji, and I didn't recognize that when I told the story about Fiji water and sort of the corruption around that story, that there's a lot of Fijians that are proud of that company's presence in their country. There's also a lot that are not, right? And so it's that conflict you have to be sensitive to. If I'm not representing one side or the other, but I have to recognize that line exists. And in some cases I didn't know until the comment section told me. And they were just like, who do you think you are to talk about this? Whereas the next comment is a Fijian that's like, thank you for telling the right story. And I'm like, oh, okay, hold up. I'm not trying to be part of the discourse. I'm just trying to tell the world that this is existing. This happens, right? And so it's rough. I'm not gonna and it's a lot of dark stories. It's a lot of painful stories that you have to live again. You know what I'm saying? And so when every day is another messed up story about how your people suffered, it takes a little bit of a toll. You know, and everybody's in the comments like, please do this after the month. And I'm like, bro, my heart hurts. My heart is hurting right now. That's why I try to find the celebratory stuff. And it sucks because they're few and far between. Most stories are heavy.
But I do think that this just speaks to the lack of representation that there is. And like, hopefully this does open up a space for people that are very passionate about this to do that, because you can't carry the entire population's history, you know, like
and there's a ton of important leaders and important voices that are out there. I just have a very specific audience. My audience comes from a worldwide platform that is a giant streaming company. That my audience is made up 99% of audiences that are not Pacifica, that are not Pacific Island. Whereas like most of the biggest voices in you know, Pacifica culture, if they're not Dwayne The Rock Johnson, Jason Momoa, and, you know, Tim Morrison, most of our audiences are, you know, in very expectable cases, the culture that we're speaking to or about. Whereas like I had this unexpected benefit that most of my audience has no idea where Tuvalu is, or has no idea where Kiribati is, or Palau, or even New Caledonia. They've never even heard of these places. But they're very important because they're just like every other corner of the planet. They play a role in human history. And I didn't realize that all these people wanted to hear these stories. And now here I am as Professor Jay Taj out of nowhere. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, we're here for it. I'm here for it. And well, I'm like, this conversation has been so good, but it's coming to an end. I just want to know, like, what are you working on? Like, you just mentioned that you feel like, or you were feeling like you had a creative block. What, in your ideal world, what are you doing tomorrow, next month?
Oh man, oh God, tomorrow and next month, that's a very different story. I mean, look, the truth is, like, this should be talked about more. I'm a full-time artist with a sizable audience, and I still have a day job. And my day job is primarily the thing that pays my bills. Mind you, my day job is very artist adjacent, right? And I am an artist relations manager for one of the biggest companies on the planet, which means my job is to create a pathway between artists and all their weird nuances, and brands and all their very weird nuances. So I play a role that contributes to my world as an artist. But the first thing that should be noted is I got to get my money and I got to do my job. Within the pockets that I have the space to create art, you know, if I had it my way, I would be in the studio writing the next hit record for some younger, more capable artist that is going to take me into millions of dollars, right? But in the meantime, before that happens, you know, I just spend as many minutes as I can in creative spaces, whether I do not bind myself to the expectation of music, right? If music is not the thing that day, then I'll do something else. I'll paint something, or I'll make a video on Instagram about Pacifica history, or I will, write a treatment for a documentary or something. I'll do whatever I can to tell stories. And I think that as long as I'm keeping my heart there, I may be not fulfilling all of my audience's desires as far as the things they want. I see the comments every day like, when's the next, we need more music. I'm like, no, me too. Trust me, I need it too. But
are you the Rihanna of your audience?
No.
Like,
maybe.
make another album.
I'm more like the Lauryn Hill. Like, I've only put out one project. So the reality is tomorrow is just, as long as I'm in a space where my brain is able to be free and create something somewhere, then I'm a happy man. And hopefully it's music very soon. But the truth is that creativity comes in waves, and I am putting myself in very necessary positions to be as fruitful as possible and surround myself with capable artists that can help me fill some of the gaps that my writer's block sometimes provides me or creates for me. And so hopefully I just keep creating in one way or another.
Yeah, well, we're excited to see that. And with all of your experience, everything that you've gone through, and also all the different types of jobs that you are excelling at. I have one question. What do you hope more creatives get to learn, and creatives in all of the different facets of the identity of a creative get to either learn or should know about being a creative of color in today's climate?
Man, as much as I don't want to take the politically correct approach to this, I think that in the world of creativity, creation is first and foremost the most important element, right? So the first step in creation, your color doesn't matter. The second step, if you so choose for it to be part of your creative identity, is to honor it in the way of knowing that art is maybe the most widely, universally, and greatly appreciated form of communication across all cultures and languages. Art will always be the way that people communicate with each other the most efficiently. So if you're going to allow your culture to be part of your identity, you have to recognize that most people consume their cultural knowledge through some form of art, whether it's a podcast or a song or a movie or whatever. Very seldom do they consume it in textbooks or in more traditional learning environments. So you have to recognize that responsibility. And then I guess lastly, the thing that I just hope everyone remembers is that it was the art first. That was why you started creating. Money is amazing. And I say this as a broke artist, contrary to most people's belief. This is moissanite. This is not real diamonds. The facade that success is design or the success is defined by dollars is incredibly counterintuitive to the reason you started making art in the first place. And I find myself in that position now. Is like I find myself strategizing my art sometimes to optimize the financial outcome, sometimes to optimize how much impact I'll have on the audience from a performance standpoint, instead of why I started making art in the first place, which was what's the best way to tell this story that I'm trying to tell. I don't care if it gets 1,000 views or 100 million views, or if it gets one stream or 1 billion streams. It shouldn't matter. What matters is that you told this story that you set out to tell in the best way possible per your standards. If you remember that, I think the money and everything comes. But if it's happening more often than not that I see people creating for the sake of outcome. The institutions like record labels and TV networks and things like that, they have benchmarks they have to hit. You don't. You're the artist. You just have to create art. And that is the most important part, that you have to keep your foot on the gas when it comes to making art the highest priority. Or else you're going to find yourself in a situation where every rapper sounds the same. And we might be there right now because everybody has become a commodity or a product versus an expression of some sort of important story. So please, for the love of God, whether you're a person of color or not, and you are creating art, just try to remember that art was the reason you started doing this. And when the money comes around, don't forget that.
Oh, you're so deep. I'm like, wow, I needed this. I really appreciate you coming. I honestly am like, when I reached out, sometimes I just take risks. And I was like talking with the team, like, oh my gosh, who should we have next? And I was like, you know what? Let's reach out to Are you used to people saying like Jay Taj every time they mention you?
Yeah. My mama calls me Jay Taj.
Oh, okay, perfect.
Nobody says Jay. Jay Taj.
Okay. Yeah, it was like, let's see if he says yes. Yeah. And I am very grateful that you did.
Because I respect you and I can see your approach to the subject matter and I respect it. So it's a no-brainer for me.
Thank you. Well, yeah, thank you so much for being here today. And thank you everybody that is listening. I hope that you also left inspired and excited to create art. Make sure to subscribe because that helps us grow. But thank you so much for being here and hope to see you on the next episode. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of La Artisteada, a media collective for global culture shapers. Make sure to subscribe and let us know how your art is impacting the world around you on our social media channels at la.artisteada. This episode could not be possible without the amazing team behind it, Erin Jimenez, Diego Lopez de Anda, and myself, Kiara. See you on the next episode.